Hello and welcome to this Excel tutorial. Welcome to AnalystRising. Today we're talking about nested if statements. Now what are they? These are simply if statements within if statements. So it allows you to make multiple decisions based upon multiple criteria. So we have an example here of two different houses, different number of people, different number of bedrooms, and what city they're in the UK. So, how does it work? Well, quite simply, you start off with one if statement, and then you put another if statement around it, and then so on and so on. Now, older versions of Excel would only allow you to do so many of these if statements. However, as newer versions of Excel come through, you can do more and more nested if statements within each other. So, how does it work? Well, I advise you strongly to have your main criteria of true, distinguished between true and false as the first if statement you write, and then work other if statements around it, having with your next important and then your next important, finishing with your least important around it. That way you know that the most important if statement is the core of that formula, of that formula. So let's start. So basic one here, I will basically use nested if statements to distinguish between house 1 and house 2. So how does it work? We are going to simply go into a cell, type in if, and we're going to have our first logical test, which is going to be if M7 equals 4, true, house 1, false, house 2. Simple. So I've put that as my most important core factor. And so what we're going to do is we're going to nest another if statement within there. So we're going to have, instead of true, so we can put it in there, or we could put it outside here. So that's what we're going to do. We have our next important factor on the outside. If number of bedrooms equals 5, value if true, then it goes to the other if statement, and then you simply just close it off. House 1. The reason why I didn't need to put if false in there is because if you leave it blank, it just assumes that it's going to the false here. So if we type in 3, it's false. See, it doesn't work. But if we type in this here, and we change that, house 2, house 2, house 2. So it has to meet both those criteria. If you want to do another one, if city equals, and this is a string, so you have to put it in quotations, London, if true it's all that, if false it is that. Sorry, if it's false, it's this. Notice that actually I don't need this at all, because it's basically just saying if it doesn't meet this criteria, then it's the other one. So very helpful if you have two decisions. If you had say house 3, then you have to put values in here as well, and then if everything was false, you would have that as house 3 if you wanted to. But if you had a long list of different houses going all the way along here, then you'd have to have values in all of these to distinguish. But I wouldn't be using an if statement for that. I would use a VLOOKUP or index match. Much easier for longer lists. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Check out my other ones at AnalystRising. And I hope to see you soon.